Welcome back to another Winning Team Talk. We've been talking about what it is that motivates us and of course how we can unlock motivation in others. In our last video talk, I was helping us to understand the difference between propelling someone, trying to move somebody by external force, and how we as leaders can change our approach to actually impelling people. In other words, finding what it is inside of somebody, that engine. Remember that car analogy that I gave, that if you pull it back, then it will go on its own. There's something inside that will motivate them to move forward, to take action. And so I left the last video kind of getting you to think about what kind of a leader are you? Are you a leader who compels and propels others? Or are you looking to impel them, to unlock that internal motivation? But I want to take a step further in this short talk, just to maybe look a little bit closer as to what that internal engine inside of somebody is. And before I go into this, let me give you some context. So there are a number of people that I coach in different spheres of life, and there's something that's common to every person, that usually we fail to take action due to fear. So there's a fear inside of us that we are going to come up against some obstacle. There's going to be an outcome that we're not going to like, and therefore it prohibits us, it stops us from taking action. So for instance, if somebody's in sales, it could be, making that phone call or starting that conversation, and it's the fear of rejection that stops them making that decisive step and taking action. If somebody is launching a product, it could be a fear of failure. So what if an idea that I've become intimate with and that I really kind of own is rejected, and people don't think it's a good idea, and so there's a fear attached to that, or a fear attached to a financial crisis, because if I put so much money into this and I effectively risk that, then the fear is that I won't make that money back, and so there's a fear of an outcome that is the demotivating factor that individuals grapple with. And we're all in that boat. There's nobody that doesn't have that internal battle. And so really our fear is attached to the result, the outcome. So how do we change that? Because you and I know that outcomes and results are inconsistent. As much as we want them to be consistent, and of course there are things that we can do to increase chances of results being consistent, but ultimately the results and outcomes are outside of our control, especially when those results and outcomes are attached to other people. You can't control other people. And again, that's why we don't advocate manipulating people, because that's trying to control people and trying to control outcomes. And it's wrong, and B, it's unnecessary. And so how do we step out of that internal fear of which leads to not taking action and unlock faith? Fear is uncertainty and faith is certainty. And the way that we do that is by really attaching a different result to the action. So for instance, let me use the example of if you're selling something. So take your eyes off of what you're selling as the result that you're looking for, and really understand what it is that you want to produce in that transaction. Because ultimately, really, if we genuinely are alive to serve people, and our business, our job, our career is our means of service, then really the result has to be, in what way am I serving the person? And if I focus on serving someone, which ultimately is about the feeling that I want to create inside of them, if genuinely I'm about serving, then really my objective should be about creating the feeling rather than selling the product or getting the result. Because actually, if we truly believe that service will produce results, if I help enough people, then I ultimately will be helped. Then if I believe that principle and adopt that process, then really when I make the phone call, when I start the conversation, when I want to launch the product, when I want to maybe put an online course out there, whatever it is, I need to focus on the feeling I'm creating in other people. And there are 6 feelings that we as human beings crave to feel. And those 6 feelings are as follows. We love to feel safe. In other words, a real feeling of assurance. We like to feel known, that we've been given attention, that we're noticed and that we're heard. We like to feel like that we belong, that we're not the odd one out, that we've been accepted. We like to feel that we're winning, a sense of achievement, which makes me feel like I'm adequate and I'm making progress. We like to feel appreciation, that we're adding value and that we're valuable to people. And finally, we like to feel that we're needed, that we feel that sense of affection and that I'm important to somebody. And so there are 6 feelings there that we as human beings long to feel. But in every person, there's usually a dominant feeling. And inside of you, look at those 6 and ask yourself the question, which for me is the one feeling I know that if I don't feel that, I'm in a bad mood. Or people get the worst of me when I don't feel that I'm getting that attention, that acceptance, that achievement, that appreciation, that affection. Now, it's important for you as an individual, as a leader, to understand what feeling you crave. Now, here's the key. Your job, your mission, is to take that dominant feeling that you want and to start creating that feeling in somebody else. So for instance, for mine, it probably doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out what mine is. Mine is I need to feel like I'm achieving. That's how I feel adequate and that I'm making progress. But if I attach that feeling to results, then when the results come in, I'll feel like I'm achieving and I'm making progress. But when the results aren't coming in, I feel starved. I feel like I'm not adequate. I feel like I'm not making progress. And I've allowed the result to determine my motivation. And so, of course, when I'm not feeling like I'm making progress, I lose motivation and I stop taking action. Conversely, if I do get the results, then I start taking more action, but it's inconsistent. The way to create consistent action is to realize actually the result I'm looking for is to help every person that I talk to, whether it's on the phone, on an email, in conversation, if I can keep helping others feel like they are achieving, that they are adequate, that they're making progress, if I can focus on creating that as the result, then if somebody says no to me, if somebody rejects my offer of help, the product I'm selling, the service I'm trying to give, or just simply the relationship I'm trying to create, if I just focus on my job is to create this feeling, then regardless of the response or the reaction, that's what unlocks my motivation. So can you see now I can be consistently producing that feeling in me by creating it in somebody else. And actually, if I consistently do that, what happens is I start to create consistent action, which of course, the more consistent my action is, the more consistent my results will be. So, of course, when it comes to being a leader, therefore, first of all, you've got to lead yourself. You've got to understand what is the feeling that motivates me. And so if for instance, if it's acceptance, then how can I, in every conversational transaction, email, text, WhatsApp, Zoom call, whatever, how can I help somebody feel like they're accepted, that they belong? And if you focus on that, then you'll unlock motivation. But then here's the key for a leader. You've got to help your team understand what it is that drives them. That's how you can motivate others and your team, by empowering them to understand what is their driver, what is their motor that's inside of them. And if you can pull them back, in other words, equip them to understand that and keep reminding them, one off is not good enough, because it's not good enough for you and I. We need constant reminding that actually this is what drives you. Focus on that. So when you make that call, you pick up that phone, you start that conversation, you go to launch that product, you have that team talk. Actually focus on the feeling you're creating, not what it is that you're wanting other people to do. because not everybody will respond the way that you want them to. But if I can focus on doing my part in creating the feeling, do you know what? Each day I can live in purpose. I can know that I am truly serving other people. And the reality is, when you sow that feeling into other people, the result may not come straight away, but it is a seed that is sown, and it's a quality seed, which means it has a greater chance of coming back and producing a harvest. Let's be genuine servants, genuine servant leaders in helping our people to understand this, and we can impel them to action rather than compel them and create inconsistent results through inconsistent motivation. Hey, let's keep this conversation going. I'm going to bring another part in very shortly, so I look forward to keeping that conversation going.